What's up, folks? Welcome back to the channel. Boozer here. Thanks for stopping by. So if you guys clicked on the video, you guys are wondering, how can I get Ramantu? In this video, I'm going to show you guys some tips, some strategies, and things to prepare for so you guys can properly get Ramantu in a reasonable time frame. I'm going to try to prepare you guys for the missions to come. And hopefully it'll be a smoother ride for you than it was for myself, and I'm sure many people that have gotten Ramantu in the past. So let's jump right into it. All right, so in this video, I'm going to try to go through some of the tips in kind of chronological order in which the missions will occur to you. The first tip I have for you guys is actually to prepare for Rosin. So Rosin is a fusion. He should be here. I completed him long ago. But Rosin is a fusible legendary. He has a single target defense down and weaken. He's a force affinity defense-based damage dealer. He's super power crept now. Look at his base speed, it's just horrendous. Like, he should be 101, and this should be 4 turn cooldown maximum, 3 turn cooldown now, based on what it is. And this should even be, you know, maybe AoE now. But anyways, he's a fusible legendary, so that's kind of cool. But there is a Ramantu mission that requires you to complete his fusion. It is retroactive, so you can, if you could fuse them already, you don't have to fuse them again, so thank goodness for that. But make sure you guys are preparing for his fusion, so any of these rares that are available, make sure you guys pick them up. Obviously, the epics are going to be worth picking up as well, and just holding on to for the fusion. Make sure you guys fuse these epics and fuse Rosin during a champion chase, so you guys can get some points there as well, just to be efficient. But overall, Rosin should be a long-term hold for you guys. All of these champions will have the fusion markers on them to prevent them from being sold in the tavern. So make sure you guys look out for that. So he's one of the tougher missions in the first leg of the missions for Ramantu. So Ramantu here, first leg, the first 60, for example. Up next, we do have to focus on, make sure you guys put some focus on the Nightmare campaign. So Nightmare campaign, you guys will slowly have to get your way through it by the end of all the Ramantu missions. They do space out the progress of the Nightmare missions. So for example, they're not going to ask you to finish Nightmare in the first 60 missions towards Ramantu, but this is something that you need to kind of work on. It is retroactive, I believe, so you don't have to complete the stages again. So if you already completed Nightmare, then you're all good for these set of missions, but it's something to look out for sure. Another mission that's actually near the beginning of the Ramantu missions is actually you have to summon a fragment champion. So it can be any champion. However, if you don't have a fragment champion ready, you should prepare for this somehow, at least have something ready by the time you get that mission. And the mission is actually relatively early in the Ramantu missions, so make sure you at least have one available champion to be summoned. It cannot be retroactive, so you have to summon it during that mission. So this one could really set you back if you're not ready for it. Like, for example, if you don't have the resources to complete fragments easily, then you will be you might be walled off here for a little bit, maybe at least a month or two. So keep that in mind. So before I go any further, I actually realized we haven't really talked about Ramantu. So Ramantu is the prize at the end of all the Ramantu missions. Ramantu missions are basically the next level of progress after the Arbiter missions. But he's a Void Legendary. He brings a very unique set of skills here. He has an AoE block active, block passive ability, which is very unique still to this day. Makes him very good. He has a multi-hit A1, which can be used for Sand Devil. He brings a fear as well. Some crowd control. He's very good for Doom Tower waves. He can be used in Arena as well. He has an accuracy aura, the big one, which is really solid. His A1 has stun on it, and then he has the a little bit of the lockout ability as well. He actually has decent damage multipliers, so you can build him for damage. That's personally how I build my Ramantu. And he's one of the coolest looking champions aesthetically, in my opinion, in the game. So he's a worthy prize for all the work. So yeah, let's jump right back into the missions. All right, so a common theme with a lot of these Ramantu missions at the time of their release are certain parts of the content that that raid was focusing on. One of them is tag team arena. So we can't really get around this if you want to get Ramantu. Tag team arena is definitely going to be a big focus of all 183 missions towards Ramantu. One of them is actually collecting gold bars. So as you collect gold bars, there's going to be, I believe, 3 missions. One mission will ask you to spend 15,000 gold bars. Another mission will ask you to spend 25,000 gold bars. And the last mission will ask you to spend 50,000 gold bars. I would suggest to definitely save your gold bars if you're working on the Ramantu missions. Save them for these big missions. Not retroactive, so you need to spend those bars when the mission is active. Just something to keep in mind. If you are caught not prepared, it's definitely going to take you some time to grind up those bars. So hopefully this will save you a little bit of time that way. Another thing that is actually a big focus is actually the Great Hall. So they're going to ask you for in the final one of the final missions, we'll ask you to have 10 of these medals at level 10. So 10 of these areas at level 10. So make sure you guys are building up towards level 10 instead of thinning yourself out too much. So make sure you guys go all the way with your Great Hall upgrades. Another mission that might bog you down is early is actually 10 champions with full mastery. So having a tier 6 mastery on 10 champions, that's going to be one of the earlier missions for Ramantu. So make sure you guys have 10 usable champions that you want to have masteries on and you want to go all the way with. So that's something to look out for as well. It's something to prepare for. Another really big theme that is going on with the Ramantu missions is actually the Forge. So the Forge was introduced before the Ramantu missions, and it was a very big level area of content. So what the Ramantu missions require you to do is actually have there's going to be crafting missions of various difficulty. Some of them are very easy, such as craft how many 6-star pieces, or using certain types of charms. So for example, if you just save up some charms, it'll say craft 10 items with resistance charms, for example. So the takeaway from what I'm saying is basically don't leave yourself with no charms. Okay, make sure you guys have a little bit of charms as you guys are progressing. Make sure you guys do any big crafting sessions with charms during those missions, the appropriate missions for them. So that's something to keep in mind. If you guys run out of charms and you guys are stuck on the mission, who knows how long it will take to get those charms to do those missions. It potentially can be a big lockup in terms of stalling you out, because we can't really target which charms we can get, right? We have to get pretty lucky with them showing in the shop or getting them randomly. So make sure you guys keep a little bit of a stash just so you guys can complete those missions when they pop up. The next area that they focus on a lot is actually faction wars. So you're going to be asked to complete various stages of difficulty in faction wars, ultimately having to finish faction wars level 21. So it's not retroactive, so you have to do it when the mission is live. So for example, if you really struggle to finish level 21 to get Lydia, and you can only complete it once, by the time you get that mission again, you will have to complete it again. So that's something to keep an eye out for, just in case you want to start feeding off your epics or something that you use for faction wars that you no longer use. I don't know, but it's just something to be aware of. The other thing that's really important about faction wars is actually they ask you to use glyphs. There's going to be a lot of glyph missions, and these are the ones that give people the most headache. So my advice to you guys, the biggest and hardest missions with glyphs is related to 5-star and 6-star glyphs. My recommendation is that I would hold all 5-star and 6-star glyphs for these missions if possible, because you will be asked to complete missions where you need to get max upgrades using 5-star or higher glyphs. There's 3 missions. One is asking for 10 items, and then 30 items, and then lastly 40 items. The 40 item mission, I believe, on average takes about 200 glyphs. So you're going to be looking to use 200 5-star or higher glyphs to complete that mission. It's a definite bog down if you have no glyphs. So definitely conserve your glyphs for these missions if you guys are still working towards it. If you guys must use glyphs, use I assume you would use only the speed glyphs for max speed on some of your champions. Use those, save the rest, and then you guys can get through those missions a little bit easier. But definitely one of the biggest problems is not having those glyphs at the right time. So definitely remember this. So Doom Tower was the other piece of content that was dropped just around the time of Ramantu, and there was big focus on Doom Tower. So one of them is actually completing all 12 of the secret rooms on normal and all 12 of the secret rooms in hard mode. So obviously it's going to be a huge resource drain if you need to do this in 1 month. So definitely prepare your teams to be able to finish your secret rooms in 1 month. It has to be 1 month. It has to be 12 out of 12 in 1 month. The easiest rotation, in my opinion, is still rotation 1 with the Frost Spider. The other rotations are definitely much harder, at least from my own personal experience. On both my accounts where I had to do these missions, I completed the first one with the Frost Spider because it just had the easiest one, the least roster dependent one. Obviously, there's a lot of RNG. It's going to be a little bit frustrating, similar to how Faction Wars was for Lydia. Doing these secret rooms are not fun. And if you fail them, you have to wait another month to complete them. So these can be a massive time sink if you cannot complete them. So definitely keep those in mind. Start working on your team slowly over time. And then think about how you want to gear them out, collecting the pieces of gear and so forth for them. I also want to add probably the hardest mission in the Ramantu missions is actually acquiring Gomlock. So getting the fragments for Gomlock, you have to complete the secret rooms. And if you basically neglect your secret rooms, it will take you, I forgot how many fragments. I believe you get 3 fragments per room, and you only get 12 rooms per month. So I believe it's at least 3 months before you can get Gromlock. So when you have access to collect Gomlock, fragments from the secret rooms, you should try your best to try to complete those secret rooms per month so that it won't bog you down so much when you get to the Gomlock mission. The Gomlock mission is near the end of the Ramantu, but this is something that you should prepare for and think about as soon as you enter Doom Tower. So you have to try to complete those secret rooms. Don't neglect them fully. Try your best at them. Try to get the fragments. And then hopefully when you get to the mission, you'll have enough that it won't bog you down for too much. But usually this is one of the hardest missions, the longest it takes to complete it. Even if you have the roster and the gear to complete it, it takes a while. So just something to look out for. Another tip I want to say about the Forge is that make sure you keep at least 1 set of every single Doom Tower boss piece of gear. There will be various missions that ask you to equip your champions with full sets of these Doom Tower sets. So make sure you guys at least have 1 full set of each. Again, if you don't have the full set and you have to wait, for example, 3 months to farm that boss again, that's going to be a huge bummer and a huge time sink. So make sure you guys keep at least 1 set of each boss. Lastly, back to tag team focus. Like I said, Gomlock might be one of the hardest missions of the Ramantu mission sets. The other one that is probably arguably the second or even the most hardest is trying to progress to Gold 1 Tag Team Arena. It is one of the hardest missions in the game for players at that level when this mission occurs. Trying to reach Gold 1 is incredibly difficult. I'm actually releasing a video on how to climb Tag Team Arena with some tips and strategies. So hopefully that video will help. But even for myself, when I was trying to go from Silver 4 to Gold 1, it was a massive leap. The activity in Silver 4 is actually quite busy. There's actually lots of people obviously trying to get to Gold 1, trying to complete those missions. It's a very difficult one. It's roster dependent. It's gear dependent. You need to put some focus into your teams, into your offense, your defense. It does take considerable effort unless you have obviously insanely stacked account with insane gear and all that. But I think for most players, this is one of the hardest ones. It might even be the longest one, depending on how your roster, how much playtime you have. Similar to Gromlock, where Gomlock requires you to have a specific roster to defeat those secret rooms. Tag Team Arena arguably requires an even stronger roster, stronger gear, good timing, good strategy, good gameplay to get to gold 1 to complete that mission. So definitely prepare for this. You will have various missions to achieve various levels of tiers throughout the Ramantu missions. So obviously you'll be progressing through tag team, but there's lots of other missions that require you to do tag team. So it will be a focus for the Ramantu missions, like it or not. All right, guys, so that's going to be it for the video. I'm going to end it off with showing my own Ramantu. So this is my Ramantu I use for live arena. He's built in 4P stone skin. He's pretty quick. He has debuff accuracy. Not insane, but he is built for damage as well. And he can actually take care of some, obviously, weaker nuking champions. So I like my Ramantu like this. He can be built in many ways. Super high accuracy, super fast. Yeah. He's a great champion. He's not used so much anymore since Sheep is in the mix, because obviously his A2 has like a million debuffs. But Sheep was fixed recently where it's not going to get applied to each debuff. So Sheep only gets applied to the first debuff, which makes Ramantu a little bit more viable. But he still has multiple debuffs on all his abilities, which makes him, you know, a Sheep magnet. Overall, his block passive ability here is what makes him extremely special and extremely strong, especially with how the game is shaping up with all these super strong passives that every champion has in Arena. He's also extremely strong for Doomtower waves, like I said, shutting down those Sifi and Rotos waves, for example. And the first time I got Ramantu, it took me about 630, 640 days. Not particularly fast, but not particularly slow. So that's kind of where I was about, you know, just almost 2 years into the game. Well, I guess maybe a year and 9 months or so when I picked up Ramantu on my account. But yeah, anyways, guys, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully I provided you guys with some info, prepare you guys a little bit, at least mentally, for some of the Ramantu missions. He's definitely worth it. You can definitely find some application for him, but it is a lot of work. I view his missions as being harder than Amius's missions. Amius is the new mission champion. I view his Ramantu missions as harder than Marius, not Amius, sorry, Marius. Yeah, so I view Ramantu missions as being harder and probably longer to complete than the Marius missions. But it could also be because, you know, the progress stage that I'm in now, where all of these missions are not very difficult to me. But when Ramantu was introduced, his missions were extremely difficult, time-consuming, and also just long durations, lots of time gates compared to the Marius missions that we have now. But anyways, let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Do you guys have Ramantu? How long did it take you guys? What do you guys think about Marius's missions? Where are you guys on Marius's missions, actually? I'm not particularly focused on it. I feel like we're all going to be time gated at some point. Yeah. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Appreciate you all. Have a great one, and I'll see you guys in the next video.